Hey, welcome to Dripping Stone Podcast, the podcast where two friends raise a glass and have a conversation. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kyle.
I forgot to stop the intro music, Kyle.
Does that matter?
No.
Or that still work?
To get in and everything.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm in. That's all I needed.
Just walked in.
That's all I needed.
Kyle,
Hey.
before we get started this week,
Yes, sir.
we are part of a little known community.
No. Okay.
It's called Patreon.
Oh, yeah. I know about that.
Okay, so it's not a little known. Everybody knows about
I was,
Patreon.
like getting surprised by something. No, I'm aware.
I mean, that's all I got. I was going to go somewhere with that. And
Good segment.
Yeah.
I ruined it with my awkwardness. If I had a nickel.
Well, I got one for you, bud.
There it went.
No, we are part of a community of creators called Patreon.
Yeah.
And
we are.
We're creating a lot of things there.
We do create quite a bit of content over there.
Yeah, so before we get started this week, I just wanted to highlight Patreon. A lot of cool things.
A lot of cool things.
And we want everyone who's listening to come join us on Patreon.
Yeah.
Like,
Agreed.
What's going on there?
Oh, man. We got so many cool things that we do. Let's highlight Just a Thought.
Ooh.
Just a Thought is a fun little like back and forth that you and I have. It's kind of like what we do generally anyway through text, where we're like kind of like shooting each other ideas of different episodes and things, but it's just kind of getting it on video, and it's like a more organized space for us. So we'll have just a thought, we'll bring it up, we'll respond to it. It's a cool little thing.
Yeah, we've got Fresh Crack Fridays, which, man, can I just say, like, your Fresh Crack Friday videos are mint, man. They are so good.
They're a ton of fun.
Yeah, they're a lot
sure.
of fun.
I like doing those.
And I like watching.
I like it a lot.
I like watching them. We also have a pour with Drep or Stone.
Yeah, that's a fun one where we pick bottles that either we haven't got to yet on the podcast, or maybe we're not ever going to get to it, and we just kind of want to do something with it.
Yeah,
it gives us the opportunity to cover more whiskey.
I don't want to spoil anything, Kyle.
Okay,
but I just did a pour with Drep or Stone that featured a beer.
Oh,
I know. That's the first one.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's the first one anyway.
Yeah, for sure. We just done whiskey so far.
Yeah, and
can't beat it.
It's quite good.
I mean, that makes sense. Like, we could do anything with that. Like, we haven't done wine on the podcast.
No.
We could totally do a glass of wine on there.
Absolutely.
Pour it up.
I had some wine with some people on Saturday. It was great.
Good wine.
It was okay wine.
It was wine. Proof wasn't high enough.
Yeah, it's 17. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's get the podcast started.
Let's do it.
Kyle, today is Wednesday, so I've got a question for you.
What's that?
How's your day?
So far so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, can we make this day a little better though?
Yeah. How you want to do that?
Let's drink something.
A dram or two?
3 or 4. That depends on I mean, the day I've had, I'm up for whatever. What you got?
We can do it, man. I got a bottle that, hey, I featured on one of those Fresh Crack Fridays.
Ooh.
Over on our Patreon.
Wank wank.
This is the Springbank 10-year.
Ooh.
This is a Campbelltown Scotch.
Yeah, this is our
Single
first
malt.
Campbelltown.
Yep.
Is
our
it-
first Campbelltown, yeah.
Is
Totally.
is it Campbelltown?
Campbellton?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask
Campbelltown?
for your best Scottish accent.
Oh, there's nothing.
There's no R. You can't roll an R.
Can't roll an R. Make it cool. Campbellton. What would you say? I don't know. Campbellton.
Nope.
No.
I just don't feel it's like
Got nothing.
Campbelltown.
Yeah.
It's probably
it's
not.
got a W.
I know, but I don't think
Campbelltown. Campbelltown. I think that's how they say it.
your North Alabama accent.
Campbelltown.
That's your Northern Scottish accent.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've really been looking forward to this bottle for quite some time, actually.
Same. This is like just the Springbank name has like popped up on my whiskey radar.
Oh yeah.
Of recent.
Listen, whiskey Twitter
Viewing.
is all about the Springbank right now.
Yeah.
And it's not a new company, is it?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. I didn't think so. I think it's just one of those, like, people are, you go through stages or you go through different phases. I know that Highland single malts have been, they went through a phase for a while. I know, obviously, Isla went through a phase. So I don't know if it's just like, for whatever reason.
Established 1828.
Oh, yeah. Not new at all. Whiskey Twitter and all of our friends on Facebook, dude, they are like raving over the Springbank.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, we've just never had it.
No.
It's kind of a harder bottle to find
that's what I was
around
going to say.
here.
So it is hard to find.
I've only seen it once ever.
Okay.
That was at a wine totally.
Gotcha.
Place, store. And saw it and was like, yep, I gotta have that.
See,
Been wanting to try it.
And the reason why I asked that is because I haven't looked for it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it's just now become on my radar, my purview as well. So I haven't been somewhere where I was like, I need this.
Right.
So, okay.
Same. Like, I mean, I think when I was looking around the store that day, that popped out. And obviously, like those big box stores,
Sure.
they've got a much larger, especially Scotch
Yeah.
selection. So I spent a little bit more time over there. Actually, knowing that it's a peated whiskey, was looking for it in the Isla section, not knowing that it was a Campbeltown.
No, I think you're right. Campbellton makes sense.
So was kind of disappointed when they didn't have it. And was just kind of like, all right, well, whatever.
Oh, so you went to the Isla section.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that was just where I was initially looking.
Okay.
And so when I didn't see it, I was kind of like, well, bummer.
Yeah.
Let's see what else they've got. And then like literally like made a loop through the store and was like, well, bummer. I don't guess they've got that.
Right.
But then when I was turning to kind of go pick out what I was going to get, I saw it in the completely other section where I must not have looked very closely.
I think that's a thing too, of like people just automatically associate Isla and peaty scotches, obviously because it's a thing, but there are plenty of things that aren't Isla that are definitely peated.
For sure. But yeah, no, it was exciting to get it.
Here's what I like about like just this bottle. I mean, the bottle is, it's a bottle.
It's a bottle.
But I love how understated all of the label design is. Because I mean, you look at everything else here on the whiskey shelf, and a lot of people are like really pushing modern designs.
Totally.
And you even have a lot of Scotch makers who are also updating bottles and updating the brand, which there's nothing wrong with. But just the way this looks,
yeah.
I mean, it's just a
kind of the less is more approach.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Me too. Yeah, I mean, and the Springbank collection, everything is based off of the color. So like the different varieties, I think there's a 12-year, maybe an 18. They just change color.
Gotcha.
So the orange is the 10-year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What's our ABV?
ABV is 46% alcohol by volume.
So 92.
92.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I got a question.
What's that?
Can we stop talking and start drinking?
You know it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
We're into it. Nailed it.
All right, man. Look at that.
Look at it.
I'm gonna see that bottle real quick.
Take a look at it.
Not chill filtered, free of artificial coloring. That's actually quite nice.
Pretty impressive for that color there.
Yeah. This will cause a slight natural haze. Okay, if you say so.
Whatever.
It will normally disappear when the temperature returns to normal. This will disappear when the temperature turns to normal. I don't know what normal temperature is, but
it's always normal in Florida. We rarely exceed those crazy cold temperatures anyway.
It says imported by some import company in California.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Import company in California.
Agora Pacific Edge Imports, if you really care. Anyway.
There you go.
Springbank 10.
We nailed it.
Yeah. All right. No, you're right. Like the color on this is actually like it's straw. You get it up, you hold it up to the light. You got straw water.
Yeah.
But for the fact that it's not, there's no coloring at all added.
Right.
That is impressive.
And a 10-year Scotch.
Yeah.
To have almost any colors, kind of like, wow.
Well,
you did
exactly.
I mean, 10-year Lafroig.
Nothing
on that.
Yeah.
Ardbeg.
That's way light.
Pretty clear.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's definitely not whiskey dark, but I mean,
Bourbon dark. Yeah. It's not a single malt though, is it?
It is.
It is a single malt. Yeah. Okay.
Tis indeed.
Ooh.
What you smelling over there?
I'm smelling some scotch. If you put this in front of me and said this is an Isla, I'd be like, yep, you're totally right. It is.
Yeah.
But there is a different malty note there, like a sweeter malty note.
Right.
It's not like punch of peat. It's a little whiff.
Right.
I mean, the peat's there.
Yeah. On the peatiness, I put it in like a Highland Park arena.
Yeah.
Like it's more just a touch.
Yeah. I would say like if I had to put a number on it out of like 10, I'd say like maybe a 4, maybe a 3. It's there. You notice, especially like if you know Pete, go up and talk to him.
He's a good guy.
Ask him how he is.
Good
Yeah. He's friendly.
Super friendly.
If you know Pete, you know that this is Pete.
Right.
If you know Pete, you know Pete.
You know Pete.
It's definitely not Lafroig. It's definitely not Lagavulin.
Right.
There's this really nice friendly note. I quite enjoy that nose.
I know. It's a lovely nose. A little briny. Sweetness, I'm leaning honey.
Yeah.
Honey sweet.
Look up where the
touch of peat.
Campbelltown region is, please. Because I think it's...
It's actually further south than Isla.
Okay.
But it's a super small little area.
Oh, okay.
It's not like the Highlands or the Lowlands or, I mean, even Speyside. I feel like it's a larger area of where, that whiskey is made. This is a very specific little area.
Further south than Isla. I'm looking at the map of Scotland here. But not too much. I mean, it's like, honestly, just right next door.
Right.
Like further south, but just right next door.
Totally, yeah. I mean, it's connected, whereas Isla's like its own island.
Yeah, and Jura's the island or whatever right above it.
Northwest of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just needed to know where I am spatially.
Giraphically.
Right. Giraphically.
Giraphically.
There are no giraffes in Ireland. And Scott.
We are killing this. And we d't even have a sip of whiskey.
Like legit.
What the hell?
There are no giraffes in Scotland that are native to Scotland. There might be giraffes or Isla. There might be giraffes in a Scottish zoo.
Maybe.
What's the Scottish giraffe say?
How do you say giraffe in the Scottish accent? Giraffe.
Okay.
Boy.
Do you have anything else on the nose before we embarrass ourselves more? We haven't had a sip of whiskey all day.
Okay. Getting like some candied orange all of a sudden.
Yeah, there's a fruity note for sure. And it's definitely citrus. You said brine?
Briny, little briny.
Yeah, and it is.
Yep.
There's a puff of salt air.
Yep.
Quite like that.
Agreed. Ooh, maybe like candied bacon.
It reminds me of saltwater taffy.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's delightful.
Whew. All right.
Going in?
Going in.
Ooh.
A little peppery.
You gotta chew that a second. Yeah, peppery's interesting. And there's enough proof where you're like, oh, hello. It's not super light on the proof, but it's not like, you're not pushing over 100, but there's enough where you're like, oh.
It's enough that like, especially like for your first sip of the day, it's biting.
For sure it is. Yeah.
Bites that tongue.
Man, that briny saltwater taffy sweetness, like that is way pronounced.
Yeah.
And the peat here is nice in that it kind of like just melds into the background almost right away.
Yeah.
Like, normally you get an Isla, it's like peat. Okay, then gone. But
then it hangs on the aftertaste.
Correct.
This doesn't really do that.
No, it's like you get just like a peat.
Right.
And then it like, I don't know, it's almost like it supports the sweetness here.
Right.
Rather than like, hey Pete. It's just,
Yeah, it's not the focal point.
No.
It's just there. It's kind of like a background singer.
That malt forward sweetness is delightful. Mm-hmm. It really reminds me of more of a bourbon in that you get those really pronounced sweet round notes.
Right.
And not in every bourbon, I mean, obviously, but like, I don't know, there's something like a quintessential 80 proofer bourbon where it's like just sweet.
Right.
And that's kind of what you're getting a little bit of those notes.
Yeah. And I like the finish on it. It finishes on, kind of more of the cask barrel influence note.
Oh, yeah.
Not like super dry. Doesn't like really end on a dry oak note, but it's definitely there. Like it's definitely prominent.
Yeah, it's kind of woody there for sure.
Yeah.
And in a really nice way. Because, you get a lot of scotches that have almost none of the oaky woody nature. Like sometimes they're aged in sherry barrels too. Like the Macallan has a lot of sherry in it. It's like the sherry based. But you get none of the wood. You get the flavoring of the bourbon, or you get the flavoring of the sherry that's in there that just kind of slightly mellows it out. But this, like, I'm getting almost bourbony wood notes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it doesn't say on the bottle anywhere if it's ex-bourbon or what, but definitely like a nice strong barrel note.
For sure. And that is, wow. Yeah, that's quite delicious.
Like the aftertaste now that's like really lingering with me is I'm still leaning more into that like candied orange, little like chewy, those gummy
I know exactly.
things. The hard crunchy sugar
on the outside. Yeah. You know what's really nice is the mouthfeel is on the lighter side. Like I wouldn't go so far as to say watery, but it's not thick, the mouthfeel. But the finish is absolutely. The finish lingers forever. I mean, I'm still like, I haven't had a sip in a little bit, and I'm still getting the finish on the last sip, which I like that. That nice bitter, that like peppery note.
Totally. Yeah. Very harmonious in all of it. Yeah. Everything. Like it's not a lot of like spiky flavors. And I'll be honest, like a lot of the reviews and things that I've seen about this really talk about how it's kind of a punchy, not aggressive, but I can't think of a good word, but I guess more of a
pronounced.
But just kind of more of a whiskey that you kind of have to work through.
Oh, I can, yeah. I can see that.
I mean, certainly, I could see that being a thing, but also at the same time, like compared to like the Corey Reckon, or I mean, just
sure,
any like the really heavy peated Islas.
Okay.
This to me seems like super kind of friendly.
If you would put this up against a Speyside or a Highland single malt, something like that is a little more friendly in general, I could absolutely see that. Like people, I think there are kind of two camps of Scotch drinkers.
Sure.
When someone says Scotch, you either go like the Macallan Glenfiddich, like Highland,
fruity,
Speyside, sure, or you go dark, deep, brooding Isla Scotch,
right? Smoky, burny, ashy,
exactly.
Band-Aid,
but correct. But I think like
my campfire has a boo boo.
Gotta put that
Band-Aid on the campfire.
Yeah,
fixed it.
If you're a Highland Scotch drinker and you have this, I would absolutely see that. Like
right.
You would say like, it's not as approachable.
Sure.
For sure. If you're an Isla Scotch drinker,
right,
this is absolutely approachable. Like
right.
This is more friendly.
Right.
It's that really interesting blend of, it depends on your perspective and from where you're coming to this particular drink.
Totally. And like, honestly, like that's where I'm finding myself currently in my whiskey journey is like loving Scotch.
Oh yeah.
Like really like loving the diversity that Scotch has.
Yep.
I mean, we've said it before about how bourbon is so definitively bourbon and it doesn't have a lot of wiggle room, where Scotch has so much wiggle room.
Yeah.
Just finding those differences and trying like a Campbeltown compared to a Speyside, compared to a Highland, compared to an Islay, compared to a Lowland, like so much that you can do with
absolutely.
it. And it's a crap ton of fun.
Yeah, and I think like that perspective, and I know that there are people like, well, I can definitely tell the difference between, a whiskey made in Louisville and a whiskey made in Indiana.
Too.
Sure. But I mean, that general region, you're producing all the same things.
Sure.
So the differences become differences in barrels and differences in proof and differences in malting.
Right.
Whereas this, I really feel like Scotch is a perfect example of a region, a type of whiskey, and the region affects it holistically.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, we see this here in America too, of like, if you get a bourbon from Kentucky and a bourbon from Alabama, they definitely taste different.
Absolutely.
And I find those kind of similarities there.
Right.
And Scotch is just, I mean, it's older in terms of like.
And they've been doing it a lot longer.
Oh, yeah. Older. And I mean, some of these obviously distilleries aren't older, but like this kind of idea and this kind of nuance is a little bit older too.
Right.
This is delicious.
Yeah. It's a fun whiskey for sure.
And this is, dare I say, better than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, good.
Like I had no, where's this going to go?
Same.
But
I was definitely interested in it, wanted to try it. Just like that's more so, I think, what's intriguing me in the bottles that I buy currently is like I want to find things that I don't have a reference point for it.
Exactly.
But it has a good reputation, so I want to try that.
Yeah.
And so like that's definitely what I look for more often currently. So to find one and to get to try it, it's like very eye-opening.
Yeah. I'm in the kind of phase of like, I'm interested when Whiskey Twitter or friends on Facebook or friends of the show are talking about something.
Right.
And then I pay attention. I set up a little bit.
Sure.
But I'm also guarded in that like I'm reticent to buy into the hype of things because I've been let down so many times.
Sure.
Because I know there are so many people that are just chasing names and bottles.
Totally.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yet
it can be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We've both done it. Everyone's doing it. Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, I want the juice in the bottle. I want to know what that thing tastes like.
Sure. Not buying this stuff for it to sit on the shelf and look pretty.
Exactly. I mean, it does look pretty.
It does look very pretty.
Yeah.
But I also like to open it and enjoy the stuff inside.
Correct.
And hopefully the stuff inside is worth enjoying.
That is some philosophy. That was good. Like I'm impressed.
Nailed it.
Good job, buddy.
Thank you. It's the Scotch.
Brings out the warrior poet in you. Yeah. That is
warrior
quite
poet.
good. Yeah.
I like that.
I know you. I thought you would.
Cool.
The warrior poet. That sounds
Didn't
like
know that was in me. I mean, fantastic aftertaste. The finish on it is so delicious.
So good.
It's almost like better than the sip itself.
Yeah.
It's not, but almost.
Almost. You could convince me.
It's good.
It's good.
Just watched that the other night.
Did you?
Yeah. But anyway, something else we've been watching.
Yeah.
Has to do with these pointy ears that I'm wearing.
You working at Santa's workshop again? Times are tough.
Holidays are coming.
Yeah, they are.
But I'd say what his quotas are nigh impossible to reach.
Yeah, make all those PS5s for the kids.
They're
Kyle.
ridiculous. Can't make any more Jack in the Boxes.
It's scared every time.
It's not Buddy the Elf.
Oh.
Have you started watching the new Lord of the Rings series on Amazon?
Please. Look at the nerd I am.
I know, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I am loving it.
Yeah. Ever since they came out with the teaser for it, I've been all in because, like, you could even tell just from the trailer, like, they're putting their money where their mouth is.
No
and they're going to
joke.
make this right.
Yeah, no joke. Yeah. The series released 2 episodes on September 2nd. So this, obviously, when we're releasing this episode, it comes out. We've seen 3 episodes at this time.
Right.
I think by the time this episode's released, we will have 4.
Right.
So we can only talk about the first 3, but I don't want to spoil a whole lot about
Actually, I
the
can
first
only
3.
talk about the first 2.
Oh, you've only seen the first 2.
Apologize. Yeah, no.
Okay, no, that's fine.
We were going to watch it last night, but
You've been busy.
It was too late.
You got a lot of things going on.
It was too late.
I don't want to spoil a whole lot about the Rings of Power.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk a little bit about kind of our first
Let's
impressions?
circle back.
Okay.
Like a ring.
Okay. Ooh.
Like the ring.
Ooh. The one ring to rule them all.
To rule them all.
Gotcha.
Let's just talk about the Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Let's do this. Start with Rings of Power. What we've seen so far. Just a little bit of a teaser. Little tease. We'll call it names. What did you do?
Little slap.
You made a hand gesture though. That hand gesture is not for everybody else to see.
Apologize.
It's okay. I'll leave the audio, but I won't put the. So we'll start with just a little bit of the Rings of Power, what we've seen so far. Not ruin anything. No spoilers.
Yeah.
And circle back around, talk about Lord of the Rings, our relationship with it, and what we've experienced thus far.
Cool.
What do you think?
I like it.
Okay.
I support it.
Me too.
I'm going to pour a little bit more of this in my glass.
Okay. One more time before we get into this.
Yep.
This is great.
This is great.
Yeah.
Dare I say, I don't ever do this myself.
Yeah.
But I think this is the appropriate way to approach it.
What do you mean?
We're tasting the introductory expression.
Correct.
We're tasting the tenure.
I mean, I've said that. I've made the argument.
I know. And I'm just saying, I don't do it.
That's not what we do.
I don't do it.
Right.
I usually tend to go for what I hear or
Okay,
understand
but
is the best expression.
But I'll say
I just want
this.
to jump straight to that.
But I'll say this. In every experience we've had where we've started with the baseline,
Right.
we've liked that, and then we've liked the others.
Sure.
So, like, Lefroy, like, we liked Lefroy.
Right.
And then we got the cast strength, and we're like, oh.
And that's a good point.
We like Lagavulin.
It's
and
a
then we
little
get the
easier.
8-year Nick Offerman. Oh.
It's a little easier to do that with Scotch because Scotch is much harder to get over here.
Okay.
Whereas like bourbons and things are more readily available to go straight for the.
I don't disagree, but also that's not our MO.
I know.
But what if we just had,
I'm just saying.
the thing, and then we're like, oh, because, okay, case in point, we've had regular wild turkey, we've had 101, then we had rare breed, and it's like,
but we didn't start at 80.
What's regular wild turkey? 92?
80?
Yeah.
I didn't have that. I didn't start there. I started
Started
at
101.
Did you? If you go back that far?
I can't think back that far. All right, Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Rings of Power. Okay.
Indeed.
We haven't seen a whole lot. Sorry.
Gollum?
Yeah.
Hiding in there?
We haven't seen a whole lot.
That's Yoda.
I was like, what? That's not Gollum. We haven't seen a whole lot yet, but what we have seen, freaking gorgeous.
Yeah. Beautiful, like scenery. Like they're really like nailing the same aesthetic
Yep.
that we got from the movies.
And I would say they're pushing it further, more detail, even prettier, which is almost impossible to do, but you did it.
For sure. And I would almost even say like I've really like something I've always really appreciated and obviously was like intentional from the moment the story was written.
Right.
Was the differences between the different cultures.
Correct.
And they continue to do a fantastic job of that in the show.
Yeah.
Of like you clearly know the elves from the dwarves, from the
humans,
and I was going to say from the hobbits, but they're not hobbits yet. They're Hairyfoots.
Hold on. Hardfoots.
Is it hard foot, you think? Or is it hard, like thinking like hair?
I
don't know.
I don't know either.
I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it's
telling Lorelai, it's like, I think it might be saying like har, like
har. I think it's Hardfoots.
Hairfoot.
Yeah.
Because they got hairy feet.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Harfoot. There we go. Harfoot. Har foot.
Okay, yeah.
Harfoots, as laid out by Tolkien in his books, are one of the 3 different types of hobbits.
There you go.
And are essentially ancestors to the hobbits we see in The Hobbit.
Okay, quick pause.
You
and I are big Lord of the Rings fans and nerds. We are not the biggest nerds.
Not even close. I don't know that I would call myself a big nerd.
I would call myself a big fan and an approaching nerd.
There you go.
Okay.
I like that.
I would say, like, for Marvel, you're a big Marvel nerd.
Sure.
Like, you know a lot.
Sure.
I'm not a big Marvel nerd. I'm a Marvel fan.
Yeah.
I'm a...
You're
I dabble.
in the nerd.
Okay, I'm in the nerd.
You're
I'm in the nerd.
nerddom in Marvel.
I am.
Just not big.
I'm not big,
Big.
but I know. Yeah, okay, good point. Thank you for elevating my status.
no.
I was being
Give
a little.
yourself
I was
some
being
credit.
modest. Okay, if you want like hardcore Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth nerddom,
Right.
there are tons of YouTube channels. There are tons of podcasts.
Yeah.
Like go search out any of them. Honestly, there's this really good. I don't know if you looked up this guy's stuff. It's called Nerd of the Rings. His stuff
I've heard of it.
is like
totally.
It is like, bro, push up your glasses, get your pocket protector out. You are a Lord of the Rings nerd, and I love you for it.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I love you for it.
Yeah.
Good on you, because I don't know half the
Embrace
shit
it.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
So all that to say, we might get some things wrong.
More than likely.
Yeah. So, if you are a listener of Dripping Stone and you are that 100% Lord of the Ring nerds, we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
We want you to call us out, but like just give us a little bit of grace.
Yeah, for sure.
Just know that like
Call us out, but just be like, hey guys, just so you know, you fucked up there.
but do it nicely.
Yeah. That's
So
nice to know.
the Harfoots, okay.
Harfoots.
Yeah.
Ancestors to the hobbits.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which
According to Google.
which brings up a super good starting point. This series starts in the second age of Middle Earth.
Middle Earth,
Yeah.
right.
So the events of Lord of the Rings, which we're going to talk about, is the third age of Middle Earth.
Right.
So like, holy crap. Tolkien's thinking about like multiple thousands of years
Yeah.
of this place.
Right.
And what I love about this is that it's very clearly rooted in what we popular culture wise in terms of the Peter Jackson series think about Lord of the Rings, but it's also establishing itself as this is something a little different.
Right.
This is something a little more serial, something maybe even a little slower in terms of like how we're presenting this narrative.
Sure.
Which, a lot of people like dog on the Peter Jackson series as a whole because the movies are, if you watch the extended cuts, are 4 hours long.
Sure.
I love it, man. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I love that. Give me a 4-hour Lord of the Ring movie.
The only one I've seen at that length is Fellowship. Like I bought the extended version of that one.
Okay.
But man, like absolutely watched every second of
Oh, it's so good.
extra features and all of that stuff that I did on that one. Like had the 4 disc, like
the
folded out like a
yeah.
map, like God, I watched everything they had on that one.
Yeah, me too. But this series, it starts in the second age, or it's representing the second age.
Yep.
And the characters, there are characters that we would know. Characters that you would see.
Well, yeah, some.
Right, some. Characters that you would see. And like you said, at the very least, characters that are ancestors of characters.
Correct.
For example, in the second episode, you see the Mines of Moria.
Right.
Which
we see in Fellowship.
But we see like the effects of what happens when the Mines of Moria.
I'm gonna try. Khazad-dûm.
Khazad-dûm.
I think. I don't know.
But it's beautiful.
But yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh,
yeah, and like that should be I think the goal of this particular series is to give you enough where it's like, okay, you're clearly here, but this is not a story that you've already seen.
Sure. Yeah, you're a little bit familiar, but at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, no, I recognize that bridge.
Correct.
But like, man, it's covered in greenery and light.
Exactly.
It's not covered in darkness and death and spider webs.
Yeah.
But I totally know this setting.
Yeah. It's kind of like what they've done with The Mandalorian of like, this is set in a place that you know, but this is not a story you know.
Sure.
Now, to be fair, there's a lot of people that understand the Silmarillion, which is the story kind of prior to The Hobbit and prior to what becomes The Lord of the Rings, the trilogy of The Lord of the Rings.
Right.
So they understand all of that. But for the most part, your average viewer, this is something complete. I just hit myself with the mic. This is something I know. I was getting tense here.
I know.
This is something completely new.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
This is gorgeous. I said it before. They spent something. I don't know. Got a frog in my throat. Morgoth. Amazon has reportedly spent like $1 billion on this series, like in terms of them like budgeting things out. And if it does well, which I can already see it doing well,
right?
I bet you they're going to spend even more because something I read was they were spending like $30 million an episode, between 30 and I don't want to say this for sure, but somebody at one point was like, yeah, but some of them are spending $60 million an episode.
Wow.
But like I think the benchmark is around $30 million an episode.
It's so cool that
for
we
an episode,
Right.
Kyle.
that we well, you know, I mean, how much were they spending an episode on Friends for that final season where they're paying each one of them $1 million an episode?
Sure.
Anyway, but Friends aside, how cool that we live in an age where it's like, yeah, no, we're spending that on an episode, and you're getting like cinema quality episodes to a TV show that you get once a week. Like, that's nuts.
Which can I just say? Side note, come on, Obi-Wan. I'm just gonna say it.
I don't know how much. I don't know how much they were spending. I bet it was multiple million an episode.
Which is
we just didn't get.
Kind of sad.
We just didn't get.
Yeah, because
what we wanted out of it.
Obi-Wan is not as pretty as it should be.
No,
I'm just saying that.
No,
and we talked about it in the episode.
To get the expanse of a world that you're getting in these, for the most part.
Sure.
Second episode when they're on the boat for a lot of that episode or the raft.
You're right.
A lot of that does feel claustrophobic.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
But yeah, no, for the most part, like you're getting expanse
and
scenery and epic, settings.
Correct.
Whereas like Obi-Wan was like everything except for like the one shot of Alderaan.
Yeah, pretty much everything else.
Aside from that, everything else felt like very
claustrophobic. Yeah. So the storylines that we have so far in the first 2 to 3 episodes is you're following Galadriel, who is the Cate Blanchett character in the Peter Jackson trilogy. And she is like just starting out. She's hunting down Sauron.
Sure.
Sauron is a disciple, if you will, of this other character, Morgoth, who, from what I understand, we will not see. Morgoth was more of the First Age.
Okay.
So there's been 2 major battles that, kind of have played out.
Do you have enough goth? No, I need
more
goth.
I need more
Goth.
yeah,
Gotcha.
for sure.
Turn it up.
Crank it up to 11.
I need black fingernails.
And white faces.
Sure. All the way.
The first kind of age ended with this like huge battle.
Sure.
And it's the battle to defeat Morgoth.
Right.
Okay. The second age ends with the battle to defeat Sauron, which is what puts us into the Hobbit trilogy, the third age. Okay. So
that was the end of the second age. Was that defeat of
Sauron?
Of Sauron.
Correct.
Okay.
Or the diminishing of Sauron, if you will.
The shards of Narsil.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Where Isildur, who is now a character, in this, which you haven't seen the third episode, but Isildur makes I'm sorry. He makes an appearance.
Sure.
Isildur chops off Sauron's hand. That ends the second age, begins the third age.
Cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was like the.
That's pretty much the defining point. So you have these kind of 2 battles that are ending those. So we're squarely in.
And we're leading up to that. You think?
Through
this series, that's the point.
And I don't think, like, my assumption is that they will stop before that battle, or we may get that battle, but they've already filmed the battle because you have that at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring. You have the Sauron battle.
Yeah, but I'm sure they'll reshoot.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe not this season if they extend it to whatever they're going to do with it. That'd be my assumption anyway.
Or maybe like right up to it.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. But then you also have Elrond, who is the Hugo Weaving character.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Hugo.
It's
close.
The Hugo Weaving character, who is this kind of elven ruler. And he's a character that we have too.
Yeah. Yeah. You're kind of introduced to them in Fellowship, not necessarily as like equals, but like in Rivendell, this is obviously like Elrond's hood. And then when they
he actually says that this is my hood.
This is my
Step
hood.
off.
Welcome y'all. MTV Cribs, what up? Come on in, take a look at my fridge.
Done pimped my ride. That's an early 2000s reference. You're welcome. Woo!
And then, well, that's Lord of the Rings. That's early 2000s. We're just taking it all back. And then Galadriel is in the other place.
Well, you mentioned that.
Can't think of the name of their hood.
The forest. I think she's I can't remember the Lothlorien.
Lothlorien. There you go. That's it.
I told you. Let me push up my glasses.
Boom.
Yeah. You mentioned the different societies and the different races of people. And this is what's cool too, is the Rings of Power have introduced us to the different versions of elves, which we get just a little bit in the Jackson series.
Right.
Is introduced us to the different types of dwarves, which we get a little bit in the Jackson series.
Right.
Has introduced us to these predecessors to hobbits.
Yep.
Has introduced us to different types of men. The third episode, when you get there are Numenorians, which is not really, spoiling.
Newman. Orions.
Right. Correct. It's not really spoiling anything. But that
was a Seinfeld reference.
We all got it.
Yeah.
Well,
did we?
Or is Newman the reference to the guy who steals the eggs in Jurassic Park? Isn't his name Newman?
No, it's the guy that stole Woody for that he was going to sell to Japan.
His name is Newman?
No, I thought we were making a joke about the actor.
Oh,
it's
the same actor, yeah.
Because his name's not Newman in Jurassic Park.
You sure?
Yeah.
What does he say? I thought he says like, Newman, we've got Newman here. Nobody cares. Oh, Newman's the other guy.
Yeah, Newman's the guy in Seinfeld. I don't think you got the Seinfeld reference.
I'm going to take a sip of my whiskey, pretend like none of this happened.
Now, what does he say? It's not Newman. But yeah, no, his name is something else in Jurassic Park.
His name is something else, but Newman is the guy.
The guy on the other side
I
of the
think
table.
his name is Newman.
I don't think it's Newman, but it is something man. Not Carlson.
Carlson. Oh, okay.
Coulson. It's not Coulson.
Anyway.
Woo, tangent. Sorry.
So we get to see these different versions of characters. Numenorians, that's where we were. And it's interesting that like you see the lines of how all of these are going to intersect eventually if you know some of the story.
Right.
And that I think is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point of a prequel that's done well.
Exactly.
Obviously you know where this is going, but it's how do the turn of events get us there in an interesting way?
Correct.
That so far this series is doing very well.
Oh yeah, and honestly, like I was psyched when I heard the announcement. This was like 2020, maybe even late 2019 when they announced this.
Right.
And I was like, oh, come on, like you're gonna follow The Hobbit, you're gonna follow Lord of the Rings, like really? And I wasn't sold, but then I saw the first 10 minutes and talking to listeners of the show and just personal friends of ours, like I wasn't in tears, but I was moved, like legit.
Right.
And I know that friends of ours were like in tears.
Right.
Because of like, oh my God, they are going to murder this in the best way possible.
Right.
Like this is going to be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, when I heard that they were doing it, I was very meh. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't actually finish the Hobbit trilogy and still haven't. I haven't seen the last one yet.
I don't blame you.
Saw the first two and was just not enthused to the point of like, I need to see the conclusion of this.
Right. Life
happened. That was right around the time where my kids were super young and it just was not a relevant thing to do.
Right.
So my enthusiasm was peaked when I saw that first trailer.
Yeah.
And was like, dang, that looks amazing for a series that they're going to put that much detail into it. Sure, I'll give that a shot. And so I think we've talked about it. May have talked about it recently on the podcast of at some point during the quarantine state, my oldest daughter and I rewatched all of the Lord of the Rings movies. And when I saw that trailer, I was like, yep, I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
So I did something very similar. I went back and I hadn't seen The Hobbit at all. Like I think I might have seen a little. I might have gone to the first movie, but I don't remember it really.
Sure.
I hadn't seen it since if I did go see it.
Right.
So I remembered almost nothing. So I watched those three, liked them. I mean, I don't think they hold a candle to the original trilogy,
right?
But they're good.
Right.
They're fun enough. The story's good. And then I watched the extended cut of all. This is on HBO Max. Thank you to a listener of the show for giving me access to HBO Max.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But I watched all three extended versions of Fellowship, Towers, and Return.
Gotcha.
And like, I was like, Carol, this is what's going to happen for the next 36 hours.
Right.
I'll see you in a little while. And like, I legit watched one a day, and they're four and a half hours long. And I loved every moment of it.
Cool.
And they are incredible.
Yeah.
And especially like if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you really need to watch the extended cut. Like, I don't think it's for everybody because it's a slog sometimes because like there are moments of like nothing's going on.
Well, but in the day and age where we like binge general series of shows that have a lot of filler,
correct,
and stuff like that, like I think it kind of feels very similar to that.
Well, see, and this is what we've talked about this before too. Of like, people are unwilling to watch a 6-hour movie, but they're totally willing to watch a 10-hour series where like 4 of those 10 hours are just nothing happens.
It's because the mental awareness that this has got potty breaks built into it.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah, but I just there's a pause button on my remote, and I exercise that pause button.
Yeah.
As I get up from the couch.
Right.
To do whatever I need
Snack
to do.
time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's my exercise for that day. Because let's be honest, like 5 hours, like this is all we're doing today.
Doing squats in the kitchen,
For sure.
eating your Oreos.
Yeah.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 squat.
Oh, 4 Oreos. Yeah. Okay. I follow you.
All right. Let's start at the beginning.
Uh-huh.
When were you first introduced to Lord of the Rings? Was it the movies?
It was the movies, yeah.
Same.
Yeah. For me, my dad has I think I have it now, but he had the original, all 4 books. And they're like probably from maybe the 70s, maybe early 80s.
Wow.
The covers, they're a little tattered and worn, so they're not something super special. Right. But I remember seeing them on a shelf when I was a kid, and I just like, nope. Like fantasy was way above me at that point.
Right.
So, 2001?
Yep.
Was it, I think the Fellowship? 2001, man. Yeah. I'm primed for that. Like you're coming off of, or you're in the midst of Star Wars resurgence. You're in the midst of this like huge swell of nerd culture.
Yep.
And the age I was, like, I was primed for it.
Yeah. We were right in that age for it.
Yeah.
Like I can remember the introduction for me was seeing the trailer for The Fellowship the first time.
Right.
And I remember specifically in that first trailer, like having no clue what you're talking about. And like, it was the shot of them coming over the hill and you get a close up of each individual character.
Yeah.
At the time, like being like, this is supposed to mean something, but I don't get it. And like, does anybody else like, and it's saying that, and it was the huge announcement at the time that it's like, you're getting one this Christmas.
Yep.
And then you're getting the next one the next Christmas. And then you're getting the third one the following Christmas.
Yeah.
Boom. And just being like, okay. And then I have a very clear memory of seeing the first one in the theater in Alabama. I remember seeing the second one in a theater here when I moved here. I don't remember where I know I saw the third one in theaters, but I don't have a clear memory of it. But the other two stick out like very clearly.
Right.
And that was definitely like my introduction. And at some point in all of that, not until like it was before, I think it was after The Two Towers, I bought the trilogy of books and read them before Return of the King.
Interesting.
And so I read all of them straight through, and obviously that's another recommendation is like read these damn stories because there's so much that they leave out.
Oh, yeah.
But read them all straight through, and that was like the introduction over a couple of years.
Yeah.
Into this whole thing.
So for me, I mean, early 2000s was still like Harry Potter reading.
Right.
So like for me, I didn't read the books until several years after Return of the King came out because I love the movies and I was totally engaged in the movies, but I just like, fantasy in that kind of, hard
detail.
Fantasy and that kind of detail.
Right.
Like I remember picking up Fellowship around the time Fellowship came out and went, nope.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it's world building and a lot of it, because of the way Tolkien writes, a lot of it is centered around language and a lot of it's centered around like, explaining who these people are and what they mean rather than the kind of hardcore adventure story that you get almost right away. So it wasn't until later that I first pick up, and I think the right way to do it is you pick up The Hobbit first. Because The Hobbit was, by all accounts, written for children. So for me, starting with Hobbit and then like working my way through them, I mean, that's when the richness of that entire series really begins to expand.
Yeah. I've actually never read The Hobbit.
Really? I think like reading it as an adult, because I reread it just recently, like in the last maybe 3 years, it's a totally different experience because it is very clearly, to me anyway, it's written for a younger audience. There's not as much world building. There's not as much like, explanation of this person beget this person beget this person.
Right.
But that's what I love about the main trilogy is that it does all of that.
Yeah, no, totally agreed. And like, I guess what you get out of reading them is such a more in-depth explanation of everything, so that if you get lost in the cultures and the terminology and everything in the movies, you're given so much more information here that it enriches it and explains it so much better.
Like to me, the series itself is more like history mixed with kind of these battles and this adventure.
Right.
Whereas the movie's almost the opposite. The movie's like battle, adventure, spectacle. And then like you get bits and pieces of the history that leads into this.
Right.
Like I remember even watching Fellowship, the extended version this time of like, why do I care about Aragorn? in the movie.
Right.
But in the series, you're like, oh, this dude like is a hardcore badass.
Right.
And they really go into in Fellowship, and Tolkien goes into like why Strider Aragorn is a badass.
Right.
And like what that actually means versus like, he's just a ranger.
Right.
And like, what does that mean? Because they don't really deal with it very well because they can't.
Right. Yeah, you just don't have the time.
You just don't have the time. Even with the extended version, you just don't really have the time to like, expand
really
that all out.
Flesh it out.
Yeah. But then you have, through this series, they do a very good job. Peter Jackson, the writers of the films, and the actors do a really good job of like giving you enough that you're not lost, but not giving you so much that you're like, really? Like we're going to spend 15 minutes talking about the history of hobbits?
Right.
Like who cares?
Right.
Like I would care, but
most people won't.
Yeah, most people won't.
Yeah.
So I don't need to give you all of that, which I think is cool.
What was your general take watching the movies the first time?
Ooh. Like in terms of like watching all three of them or like each individually?
I guess each individually.
Okay. So Fellowship, I think, presents like such a good foundation for the story.
Right.
I really love like we're going on an adventure kind of thing.
Right.
So like that I was totally in love with. Two Towers is really all about gloom and doom and let's fight all this out.
Right.
The culmination of Return of the King, even like that is still my least favorite movie.
Same.
And I don't know why, but it is.
I think for me it's at that point, one, it's this big, huge, long epic that you generally know where it's going.
Mount Doom. Right.
And it's just us getting there.
Correct.
And we don't get to go to any beautiful settings in that one. Like everything there is mostly in Mordor, and it's just like to look at. I kind of look at the Two Towers the same way of like, the places that we're introduced to there, they're not like, it's not Rivendell.
Right.
You don't get the balance of Mordor and Rivendell.
Right.
You don't get that balance that you got in the Fellowship.
Yeah, I would say Fellowship is a prettier movie for sure.
I mean, I personally, I think Fellowship is the movie.
Interesting.
I can rewatch that one more than I can rewatch any of the other ones.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
Towers almost feels like filler.
Okay.
It's like we got to get to point B, but we got to spread it out and give you a little bit more. I mean, the battle at the end of that one is top notch.
Yeah, I Battle of Helm's Deep.
Helm's Deep.
Yeah, I could
like. There's so many. There were so many. Like that's a great fight sequence for a
For
movie.
sure.
Of like, there's so many cool things that
Legolas
does,
right.
and Gimli does, and their competition.
Yeah.
It's so fun. It's just a great like you remember that stuff, and there's just not as much of that in Return.
I mean, in Return, you get the battle like outside of the gates of Mordor. I forget what those gates are, where Aragorn looks back and he's like, for Frodo? Like, fuck yeah, for Frodo. We're doing this. And like, even now, like I kind of got like a little bit of a...
That's a cool moment, for sure.
But it's like...
It's kind of the Avengers Assemble
exactly
moment. Yeah.
But still, I agree with you. Like, I could put on Fellowship and be just fine. It's almost, I don't know, it's the same to me of like, I could put on A New Hope and be just fine. Like, I don't even have to watch it at this point. It's just like background noise,
right.
and I love it.
Right.
I can't put on Return and the same thing. Return of the King or Return of the Jedi.
Same.
Like, it's the same. To me, it's like that same kind of like thought process.
Yeah. Yeah, no, same. Like, and I mean, I don't know. Two Towers without Helm's Deep is kind of the same way.
Right.
Like, all the stuff with the Ents. Such a slog.
Right.
The stuff with Gollum is interesting because like Gollum's such a great character.
Right.
But yeah, in Return, once they finally get to Mordor, it's just like I'm tired of looking at these dirty hobbits. I don't want to see it anymore. Like, just wrap this up.
Somebody needs to throw themselves in the fire. Like, that's what needs to happen.
I need a bath. Bad.
Yeah, I need a bath. Everything around here needs a bath.
This is awful.
Something needs to happen.
Y'all just dirty.
So to me,
Eating them elven biscuits. I'm tired of seeing it.
Sam's tired of eating them. I'm tired of seeing it.
Sam needs a sausage. Needs his 11sies.
Oh,
Damn
man.
it.
Tea. Needs a tea.
My guy.
My issue with also like the trilogy as a whole is the way they kind of wrap it up in terms of like now Frodo needs to go to the Undying Lands.
Sure.
And I watched a couple of videos on this because I've always been confused by that. Even watching it recently, been confused like why can't he just hang out like with the other hobbits? Why does he need to go to the Undying Lands? And this thought process this video I watched kind of worked through the thought process of like the being stabbed by the blade. I forget what it's called.
By one of the wraiths.
Yeah, by one of the ring wraiths, being stabbed by that, like he is essentially infected, and there really is no choice for him. He will always carry that burden. Which, thinking of metaphor and hero's journey and all that, like beautiful. Okay, totally. But it's like you have this character. I guess there really is no other way to end it. Like, he can't go on another adventure.
Right.
I mean, I guess he could, but what are you gonna do?
Right.
But I was always like, I felt like the end of Return of the King and the end of that narrative has always been like I want something more out of it. Because I guess I'm not happy for the character.
Right.
And you're just like, wow, you went through shit. And like, I guess good for you that you get to go to this heaven type place.
Right.
But like, we as audience members, we have no idea what that's like.
Right.
So that's what I think Rings of Power might just give maybe a little hint of in some way. I don't know.
Well, and it's cool that in Rings of Power, is it at the end of the first episode or the beginning, end of the first episode where Galadriel's going there and she decides, no, there's still work to do.
Correct.
And she jumps ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was always like, after reading the trilogy, before having seen Return of the King, knowing that there was like the whole, like once the hobbits got back to the Shire, that there was like this whole battle that they had to fight there and fix shit in the Shire, and that they did that, and that they just skipped over that in the movie, which granted I understand why, but at the same time was always kind of like, bummer, because like the people in the Shire had no clue what they had been through and what they had done. And so the fact that they get to go home and then earn respect at home also was like such a cool concept. Theatrically makes no sense to do.
Correct.
But at the same time, it was always like, oh man, I kind of wanted to see that.
And something I've always thought about too, after watching the series first and then going back and reading them afterwards, like you cut out a major character of Fellowship. You cut out Tom Bombadil, a major character.
Tom, yeah.
And like who helps them immensely.
Yeah, for the first half of that
story. Easily half of the story.
At least quarter.
Yeah, and I can't remember, does he make appearances in the later series? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But like you cut that character,
don't know.
You cut that character out, and like I understand why. Because like you're introducing character, and it may have been too much of a Deus Ex Machina. I get it, but it's also like that is so central to the book. But I think that you would, if you never read the book, you would never know. Like you would never know something's missing.
Yeah, you absolutely wouldn't.
Yeah,
and it's just one of those like nitpicks. Of, like
for
people
sure.
who have like, but you left out Tom.
Yeah, for sure.
Damn it.
I would like to see it.
Yeah.
Now knowing which I don't want to spoil anything Rings of Power, but I think you might have something along the lines of that. I don't know. But I'm just speculating.
Yeah, no. Super excited where they're going with it.
For sure.
Can't wait to see the creation of the rings.
Oh, yeah.
And the giving of the rings.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool.
And the whole like mythos behind that, and how, the corruption of these different cultures and all that. Like it's one of those, like I can see what shit this leads to.
Right.
But like, I want to see it.
Well,
like I need to see it.
And it's something that honestly like still resonates today like when you're given power, it corrupts.
Correct.
If
left unchecked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
See our previous episode if you if you need a primer on that.
What was that?
That was the society will end in 2040.
Oh, right. Yeah, totally.
We talked about that a little bit.
There's just a timeline there. That's coming.
Yeah.
Look out.
Well, you got anything else?
No.
I mean,
good conversation.
Oh, for sure.
Good one.
Honestly, like I could nerd out over this for quite some time.
Oh yeah.
But
and I love listening to the nerd out of it.
Oh,
it's one of those things too of like I don't know a lot, but I love listening to people who do understand all of it and can read Elvish and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, dude,
like crazy.
It gets deep.
Yeah, like I mean, it's so much more than what, and I think Star Wars could take a lot from
100%
this.
Yep.
Of stop doing shit on Tatooine in the same time period.
Correct.
Go 1,000 years back.
Right.
I know they're supposed to be doing it, but like, let's see it already.
Yeah.
You know, they could take a lot out of this.
Well, which is why
detail and stuff. You know
why, man, I'm so excited for Andor. Like, I think,
but that's still the same fucking time period. And if
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you, but it at least it's a different story. At least it's out of the like. Yes, it's connected to the main narrative, but at least it's like it's Mando again. It's out of the main narrative.
Prequel.
But
and
at least
it's probably gonna have Vader in it.
Maybe, but at least you're doing something a little different. But I agree. Go back 1,000 years. What is it called?
At some point, he's gonna have to go to Tatooine to get something from Jabba. Boba Fett's gonna be there. God.
Well, anyway,
you're gonna trip over Luke, little baby Luke.
Maybe Luke's hand. Have you seen the Kenner the Kenner toy of like it's just Luke's hand? Have you seen that?
No.
It's really funny. You should look it up.
Fantastic.
I don't know if it's legit or not, but I was looking through something and I think it came up on Instagram. And it was like a Kenner, like an official Kenner box,
right?
And it's like Luke's hand. It's just
fantastic.
a plastic hand in the Kenner box. It's kind of funny.
Gripping a lightsaber?
No, just a hand.
Bummer.
It's pretty good. It's pretty funny. No,
put that lightsaber in there. You can charge triple
for sure. Maybe there's probably like a special edition. You know, like it's just a lightsaber.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, we want to know, what do you think about Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
What is your favorite character, or who is your favorite character?
Oh man, good one. What race of character do you find yourself? Do you connect more?
Yeah.
With the elves, or technically with the hobbits, because they got plenty.
They got plenty of years too. Yeah.
Do you connect more with the dwarves and the bearded culture?
What are you trying to? Oh.
I'm probably a hobbit, honestly. If I'm honest,
like to eat and sit there.
I'd rather be in the elves.
Yeah,
they're more creative.
That's a good point.
I don't know.
Like, who would you rather be, and who do you actually really identify with? I want to know that. Yeah,
there it is. What?
You want to bring up the drink?
Oh, have you ever had Springbank?
Oh,
that's some good shit.
It really is. And I want to know, what do you think about it?
And whatever varieties have you had of it?
And if you want to, donate a bottle that's not the Springbank 10. Let us know. We can tell you how to do that. We know a guy.
Indeed, you do, or we do, or y'all do.
Well, you can get in touch with us through email. That's drepandstone@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with us through social media.
It's always a singular word.
One word?
One word.
What is it?
Drep and Stone. DREP and Stone. Come find us, like a thing. Share a thing, laugh at a thing. Great things happen, especially on Patreon.
Oh, that's what I was going to bring up next.
Beat you to it.
I know. So you can support Drep and Stone on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Drep and Stone. There's a lot of really cool things going on there. Gives you exclusive access to us, exclusive access to the Drep and Stone community, which we're working towards building a bigger and more lively community for everyone.
Yeah, I would say 80% of our content is probably on Patreon now.
No joke. No joke. Which we love the pod. This is what we do.
Yeah, it's all based around the pod.
Absolutely. But just gives you a little bit more.
Yeah.
A little bit more to think about. You can also support
a little more.
You can also support the podcast by rating us wherever you find great podcasts like this one. And finally, Kyle, you can support Drep and Stone by simply telling someone, hey, do you like Lord of the Rings? Drep and Stone likes Lord of the Rings. You haven't heard about Drep and Stone? What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Find yourself a butterfly.
Right.
Or a moth. Whisper in its ear.
Ooh.
And then let it fly and share the good word of Drep and Stone throughout the land.
Hey. Super big plot hole.
What's that?
Freaking Gandalf had eagles the whole time. Why didn't they just go from the Hobbit from the Shire to the freaking Mount Doom and toss that thing in there and be done with this whole damn thing?
That was the fly you fools. He was telling them. I should have thought of this, guys, but I'm an idiot.
Death or rebirth, depending on how you look at it. Anyway. Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
May your glass overflow.
And your ass never show. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. What kind of performance would you like, Mr. DeMille?
So just start.
I love that you think I can do that. No, it's perfect. Okay. That's great. I know, it's so weird. I don't understand what's going on there.
That's going to build its strength back up.
Maybe.
Arc reactors breaking.
It's good. It's good.
So what, you saying I'm not talking loud enough? Is it that?
No.
Or when I got it in close enough?
A little bit of the latter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can turn the headphones
I didn't know
on.
that was a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So, like-
that's kick-ass. Whoa.
Too heavy?
Yeah, too much. This ethereal space is not ready for that.
Boom. It's for the people
Yep.
on Patreon, Kyle.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like an overheating thing. I wonder if it gets hot inside and it needs to back off,
Maybe.
kind of cool off a little bit, and then it'll bring it back up full power.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Inappropriate.
Yeah. Well.
Anyway,
It wouldn't be us if it wasn't.
I know.
It's good.
Literally anything. She's all for it. Pull your beard. Just a little tug.
Just a little
Getting
tip.
better, man. Just going to grab your axe.
Swinging around.
String my bow.
God, these
Come on, man.
euphemisms. Okay. And on my way to go, Nick.
Look at you.
Got to cut that out now, Kyle.
Love it.
I'll have to cut that out of the video, but everyone else, right. I know what hand gestures you're making.
Yeah.
Okay. Damn it, Kyle. You a popular guy. Looking towards building.
I heard nothing.
Oh, it was just all in my head.
All right.
In my head.